Welcome to #Wednesdays Weekly, a weekly information session in collaboration with voluntary sector and public sector partners. This week, the session is on ESOL Advice and the hosts are Safina and Syra. Over to you, Safina.
Hi everybody, so we are part of the ESOL Advice service in Rochdale. And what ESOL is English for speakers of other languages, or it's sometimes known as EAL, so English as an additional language. So for the ESOL Advice service, we have Steph Rush, who wasn't able to join us today. She's the Work, Health and Skills Manager. We have Syra, who is the project manager, and myself.
Hiya, yes.
Yeah.
Hiya, yeah. My name is Syra, and I'm the project manager for the ESOL Advice service. So I'll pass back to Safina.
And myself, Safina, and I'm the project coordinator. So the ESOL Advice service is modelled on the Manchester ESOL Hub, which has been working successfully for about 2 years now. And there's 7 other areas within Greater Manchester who are going to be having their own ESOL hubs. So we're the Rochdale hub, but they all work in similar ways.
Yeah. So we were approached by GMCA back last year sometime, saying that they wanted to start this project with local authorities. So Rochdale was considered as one of the local authorities, and we had to apply for it for us to have an ESOL Advice service in Rochdale. So we put an application in, and obviously we've set up this ESOL Advice service in Rochdale. Do you want to go through the bullet points?
Yeah.
Map? Yeah.
Yeah. So the advice service are in place to map provision available in each area. It's helping to set up assessment sessions for learners, which will be agreed and delivered locally. But due to the pandemic, we're currently doing these sessions online or via telephone. The advice services will help manage local waiting lists and help to place learners within the locality to ESOL provision with reduced waiting times. We'll be working closely with ESOL providers in our areas, coordinating network meetings and advising on provision needed. So if there is provision in place within Rochdale and a need is identified, we can work with the providers and put that course in place. The Rochdale ESOL Hub will support the setup of each local ESOL hub with practical advice. So when we're doing assessments with our learners, we will ask them if they need other help, and with the data we collect, we can produce data reports on how ESOL timescales are being managed and how the provision is meeting demand or not. So I'll carry on to the project objectives. So the main objective is to create a single point of access for anyone wanting ESOL provision in Rochdale, Hayward and Middleton. We now have a centralised waiting list, and the ESOL Advice service is helping us to better coordinate ESOL provision locally and across participating GM areas. The ESOL Advice service hopes to improve the experience of people wanting to learn English in our city. So some of the problems that people wanting to learn ESOL in the past have encountered is being placed onto a waiting list for months on end. Sometimes, they're missed from the system and things get in the way where they can't access ESOL provision. We also want to develop a better understanding of and respond to the demand for ESOL in Rochdale. So often the demand exceeds the supply of ESOL. So some of the difficulties that ESOL learners have is there's a lack of information for learners. There's no clear information about ESOL provision, as there are many providers and learners are not always aware of the provision available. This leads to learners contacting multiple providers and going onto multiple waiting lists. There's limited coordination between providers. Often learners are making multiple inquiries, which is leading to duplication and increased costs and waste. The lack of data to inform ESOL strategies. So it's difficult to identify gaps in provision for particular cohorts. there's limited data and overall demand for ESOL, which is met and unmet.
Yeah, another problem that we were having is learners wanted to access an ESOL course. And for example, if one provider didn't have that course available, they would attend with another provider, but they might attend a course that's not appropriate for their level. So for example, if they were at entry 2 level, but the course was only an entry 1 level, they were attending the entry 1 because they wanted to attend some kind of provision. Where this ESOL advice service, what we will be doing is making sure that they attend to the appropriate level. So even though the ESOL advice service will do an assessment and a screener, the local providers will do their own diagnostic assessment to ensure that they're on the right level, and then we put them on the class that's appropriate to their level. Also on this waiting list, if we have more than 10 people of the same level and the provider does not have a class, if we tell them we've got more than 10 people or 12 people for a particular class, they can then put on a class for us for those learners. So therefore, they're not waiting a long time for a class to be available.
Thank you, Syra. So who can use our service? So learners can be referred from 16 years onwards. ESOL levels covered at the EES are from pre-entry to level 2, and learners are signposted to both accredited and non-accredited courses. We signpost learners to a course that suits their level and needs. So we're taking an impartial approach when placing learners with providers. Learners will complete an online assessment for reading and writing, and then another assessment, which we call a screener, to identify their needs, whether they've had previous courses, you know, what their needs are, what time they want their classes. Based on that, we will then help place them onto a course that suits their needs and their level. By using approved partners, learners will hopefully be able to progress as well. Our approved partners currently are Hopwood Hall College, Talk English, and WEA. Syra?
WEA stands for Workers' Education Association.
Okay. So the referral process is pretty straightforward. At the moment, any ESOL providers, so Talk English, WEA, and Hopwood Hall College, will publicise and recruit their learners for courses in their venues in the main enrolment period. They then enrol learners onto the courses they deliver by themselves, that they are delivering themselves whilst they have spaces. However, when courses are full, the ESOL providers refer the learners to the advice service for an assessment rather than keeping names on their own waiting list. Learners can also self-refer online or via phone, and providers and groups within Rochdale can either give learners a leaflet with details of the ESOL advice sessions near them, or call them or signpost them to the web page for the ESOL advice service to book a slot and complete an assessment online. Syra?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it, most of it. So yeah, so we've got two options. You can either refer direct to our email, which we'll give you at the end of the presentation, or you can direct them to our website, which is the ESOL website, where they can do an online assessment, and then we will then contact them to do the full screener. So those are the two ways that you can refer learners.
Okay, so the assessment and placement process is the learners will complete an assessment via online or via phone. If there's any data, if we've had a face-to-face assessment, it's input onto our database, and when a place becomes available, the learner's contacted with an offer of a place by text. This will give them the dates, the times, and who the provider is and what date the course is starting. They will then have to phone us or email us to accept the place, and then the learner's details are sent to the provider. The other way is they complete their assessment online, we phone them for a screener, we ask them, you know, what their needs are, we assess their level, and then whilst we're doing that screener face-to-face, we can say, you know, we've got this course available, or if there isn't a course available presently, we advise the learner, you know, there's no place at the moment, but we will advise you as soon as a place becomes available. And then the process of sending the text with information is repeated. once a learner is given a place, they can refuse the place, they can decline the offer, and then the learner remains on our waiting list. And once the learners are signposted onto the course, placed onto the course, the provider will confirm the suitability and do an enrolment process for the learner. The assessments we have in place have been approved by all the providers, but they will need ID documents and, you know, just to confirm everything that we've got on our records is correct before the learner is given the place.
Just want to go a bit of detail. So, for example, if you refer a learner to us, we will then send them a text message via Gov Notify to complete the assessment. So we will give them 7 days to complete the assessment. If after 7 days they've not completed the assessment, we will try and make a phone call to those learners and says, you know, we've sent you in a link, can you complete the assessment? But we will give them 3 chances. So we will send another text message on the 2nd week and then the 3rd week. After the 3rd week, if we don't get no response, we will then send them a text message saying you're now been taken off the waiting list. If you want to continue and want to be offered a place, you need to contact us again. So they are given multiple chances to actually complete the online assessment.
Yeah, and with the 3rd attempt, we often phone them as well, just to, you know, make them aware that this, you know, the text is from the ESOL Advice service. And then they also get, so once the assessment's completed, a screen is completed, where we get details, make sure all the information they provided is correct, and it gives us a chance to assess their speaking and listening, which again will help us place them onto a course suitable for their level.
Yeah, and also give us more information. So for example, somebody might not be able to attend during the day because they're working and they want an evening class, or they need childcare support. So we can look into all that before we can offer them a place.
So again, with the screener, you know, the learners sent a text message via Gov Notify to say, thank you, we've received your completed assessment. And then they will get a text saying that we will call you on a certain day. Then the night before we phone them, we give them an hour time slot. So for example, if I was to complete a screener tomorrow, I would text them today saying, I will be calling you tomorrow. This is the ESOL Advice Service. We will be calling you tomorrow between 10:30 and 11:30 a.m. Please have your national insurance number to hand, as we will need this to complete the assessment. And then we call the learner around that time to complete their assessment. Okay. So the website we have is gmesol.org, which keeps all the areas, which includes all the areas from the GMCA ESOL Advice hubs. But if you go onto the web page,
so this is the actual website.
If you go onto the web page,
want to do the online assessment.
Yeah, so you can go to courses in Greater Manchester, and we've got Manchester, Salford and Rochdale. So you can go onto the website and you do join a course, and this is the placement test. So this is a reading and writing assessment which learners can
Tina, do you want to share your screen for that?
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought I'd right, share screen again. There we are. So, oh, wrong screen.
So this is the actual website you use if you want to complete the online assessment. So we will send the link for this particular assessment to be completed, but you don't have to be referred to complete this assessment. You can go onto the website directly and do the assessment as well. So this is what the actual page looks like. Yeah. So
the other parts here are, you know, our website's going to be updated, so there'll be information about work and skills, local services and support groups within Rochdale that may be beneficial to ESOL learners.
And that's a little video we've got about the ESOL Advice service. So when you get a chance, you can have a look at that. You can also send that to learners or other workers in the team to have a look at, to see the process for actually referring onto the ESOL Advice service. And if they wanted to join a class, they'd have to go and join a class, Safina, yeah, and then complete that assessment, and that will assess their reading and writing skills.
So one point about the assessment, there's some information, but if it's not completed, it won't complete fully, and you have to get to page 5. So once the reading and writing assessment starts, if the learner is unsure, doesn't know the answer, that's fine, they leave that blank. But as long as they sign the final page saying that they know that they've completed the assessment and that we will be contacting them, that comes to us as a completed assessment. Okay, so also on the website, there's the different levels, there's an online assessment, there's links to practicing English online from various providers, and other activities within the community for ESOL learners as well. There's a lot of information and interactive resources on that website. So we have a lot of learners referred to us. When we complete the screeners with our learners, we will ask them if they need advice, even like when we're discussing things, if we're having a conversation and completing the screener and someone says, you know, I'm really looking for a job, we can signpost them to work and skills. We do ask if they want to have any IT help or interested in any IT support. So if they come to us and ask us a question, we will be signposting learners to services. So last week I had a learner who was asking about food banks, so I signposted them to a food bank as well. We're
also going to deal with what the barriers are for them to attend a class. So the barrier might be that the children doesn't have a place in nursery, so we can support them with that. They don't have adequate housing. They've got ongoing housing issues, so we can refer them to the housing team. They need mental health support. So all the different support that they need. So we're not just going to focus on the ESOL side. Any other additional support they will need, we can support them with that as well.
Yeah, because some learners will need support in trying to get schools for their children and stuff. So one of the learners we've had is living in Middleton, but his children are in school in Manchester because they aren't aware of how to change school places. So we can support learners with all sorts of, signpost them to different services within Rochdale. To make a referral or query, you can contact us at esol@rochdale.gov.uk or using the telephone number below. Syra?
Yeah, that's it. So you can email us with any questions you have, or if you're not sure if you should refer somebody, or if you want the link for the website, just contact us and we can send you the link. If you're an agency and you want update information on your learner that you've referred, and if they've been offered a place or if they've completed the assessment, if you just let us know, and then we will keep you updated on when they've done the assessment, when they've attended the course, and when they've completed the course as well. So any other questions, just contact Safina on esol@rochdale.gov.uk. Thank you.
Thank you very much.